Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Friday, March 28th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, folks, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, shall I? Do you know that today is National Weed Appreciation Day? Neither my co-host nor I imbibe in marijuana. She harkens back to that saying from those 1970s public service ads. Hey man, why do you think they call it dope? She is the she-devil with a spatula. She is the Khaleesi of BC. She is Drea Humphrey. How you doing there, Drea?
I'm doing good, David. I was worried about where you were going with that day. But I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm excited to be back on the show with you. And yeah, I can jump into the rundown if you want me to.
First, Drea, I have to issue a correction. I don't want to be accused of fake news.
Did you get the day wrong?
No, it turns out that National Weed Appreciation Day reminds us that some weeds are beneficial to us and our ecosystem. Humans have used weeds for food and as herbs for much of recorded history. Some are edible and nutritious, while other weeds have medicinal value. What I'm saying, Drea, it has nothing to do with marijuana.
It's like actual weeds. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Nobody, you know what? That was an honest mistake. No one's going to think that at first glance. Like, who would have thought?
Yeah.
There's a day for actual weeds. Although dandelions, those are very good for you. They don't taste good, but if you cook them up, make a tea or something like that, it's supposed to be really good for you.
I've heard that, Drea. And on dandelions, because this has been a theory of mine for decades, and I want to get your take. If the dandelion was almost impossible to cultivate, you had to fret over it. It had to be in a hot house, a greenhouse, and it was such a super delicate flower. It would be much coveted. I mean, a dandelion is beautiful. To me, it is. I mean, you know, but because it grows out of control, we vilify it. But Drea, I'm sure you're a lady who likes to get a dozen roses. If dandelions were rarefied, I bet you'd be just as happy with getting dandelions. What's wrong with dandelions?
Well, I'm sure I'm not the only mother whose kids actually pick dandelions and give them to them. And that's my favorite type of flowers to receive because it's just so sweet and innocent. And they just see a little weed flower and they think, you know, it's so pretty. I got to give it to mom. So,
well, that's exactly what I do on Valentine's Day with Lady Menzoid, because I am paying $69 for 6 long stem roses. So
why does that not surprise me?
I pick some dandelions in May, put them in the freezer, and then bring them out on February the 14th. So there you go. A Barry Horowitz pat on the back for my economic tip. Times are tough, folks.
Well, you know what? I only asked for strawberry Haagen-Dazs, so I'm pretty simple. But for those of you who are tuning in for the first time or you need a refresher, this is our Rebel News Roundup, where we get together unscripted and talk about the news of the day. And boy, do we have a good show in store for you. And hopefully, a lot of you, some of you are going to be a part of that show. And the best way to do that is to join us. Right now, we're live streaming both on YouTube and Rumble. So if you're on YouTube, guess what? We're monetized again. The YouTube censorious gods, for some reason, have done that. So while it lasts, it's great if you send us a super chat to help our reports come out strong. But also, when you do that and you leave a comment and the donation is $5 or more, we actually read it. It becomes a part of the show, which is my favorite part. And then if you're watching this after we're streaming it live, you can leave a super thanks. So that's the same thing. It's a fun way, I think, to be a part of donating with Rebel News. Fun fact, I have still never stopped my monthly donations to Rebel News. I was a Rebel News donor before being a Rebel News reporter, and I just can't hit cancel for some reason. And then also, you can join us at our friends at Rumble if you're on there or you want to hop over there. I say friends because they're friends of free speech, just like us, and just like us for taking a stand for free speech. They've had their own battles in doing so. So I always support hopping over to Rumble, joining us on there, and you can also be a part of the show and leave a comment and a donation through Rumble Rants.
And they are such a champion of free speech. I should just do a little plug here that last May, folks, when we were having our Rebel News Live event at Downsview Park, which is federal land, Trudeau's Gestapo tried to extort us. They said you need to pay up $50,000 in policing costs, and that would torpedo the event. We were getting ready to cancel it. And thank goodness for Rumble. They took out their checkbook, wrote a check for $50,000 to the shock of the Canada Lands Corporation. That's the federal crown corporation that runs Downsview Park. They didn't want the money. They just wanted to cancel, if you can imagine, a free speech anti-censorship event. And we could never have done it without Rumble stepping up like they did. And the reason why this is current, you might have seen last few days, Drea, we received 138 pages of documents from the Toronto police indicating through Freedom of Information, they didn't volunteer this certainly, indicating that they were doing everything behind the scenes to censor and cancel a free speech event. Can you believe it? I won't get into all the nitty-gritty details. It's shocking. It's disturbing. But again, giving credit where credit is due, thank you to Rumble.
Absolutely.
They talk the talk and walk the walk. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Dre, I want you to take the lead on this because it's in your neck of the woods. Am I reading this right? This isn't a typo.
No.
5,500. Not not 550, not 55. Oh, and by the way, folks, I'm not jesting because we were at the Jagmeet Singh rally a couple of days ago in Hamilton. 60 people showed up across town, and this is union-friendly Hamilton. An estimated 5,000 were there to see Mr. Poilievre. Earlier this month, Mark Carney went to a bakery in Bradford, Ontario. Oh, he packed the joint. I think 49 people. Drea, this is amazing. This even exceeds the attendance in Hamilton by some 500. This is my thought. I want to hear your thoughts, but this is why I'm saying I'm calling BS on these polls that indicate this is not a conservative landslide anymore, but a photo finish horse race. What say you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I was there and absolutely, as the younger people say, it was a vibe. It was packed. There were people lined around when I arrived, this huge industrial business. Like, I could not see the end of the lineup for the life of me. Some people at the beginning of the line said that they were there from 1 p.m., even though the doors opened at 6 p.m. So you can see that people are starving for change and they are showing up. May I remind you that this is in Surrey, British Columbia, which typically votes in most liberals in the ridings there. There are several ridings there. They do a little conservatives, but overall, it's more Liberals that get a seat there. So to happen in Surrey on left coast BC, it was quite impressive. And as you said, they said 5,500. They came up after one of the staffers said it's their largest event that they've had so far. And people were eagerly waiting on the outside to send him off. There was no F. Pierre Poilievre signs or anything like that. I did, of course, interview some of the people there. We're going to have a report coming up on that. But the consensus was from the people I interviewed when I asked, well, what if Poilievre doesn't win? What if the polls are right? Which I say to you, it doesn't seem like they are. What does that mean for Canadians? And so many of them said it means I'm gone. I don't know what it means for Canada, but it means I'm out of here.
And Andrea, speaking of the vibe, I've been to 3 Poilievre rallies. The one on Hamilton was absolutely overwhelming for me in a good way. My cameraman Efren and we were mobbed by well-wishers, mobbed in a good way, not like the pro-Hamas people with trouble on their shirts, but, shaking our hands, taking selfies. Yeah. And these were such nice, friendly, decent people. When I go to an NDP rally, I went to the Mark Carney rally. Well, I tried to in Kitchener 2 days ago, but was frog marched out by the Gestapo very quickly. People are walking by doing drive-by insults like "you suck." And what did you experience in Surrey?
You know what? I feel like, God bless the people. Every time I am in a setting like that isn't the NDP or isn't drag queen story time or something like that, there's just so much love. So like you, I was bombarded, trying to get through a room like that to the media stage after doing some interviews. There was somebody leading me to the stage, where the mainstream media was as well. And I couldn't keep up with him because too many people are saying, hey, I love you, love Rebel News, love the work you guys are doing. And so it's so amazing because like you said, like you pointed out, we don't always get the love. So it's so great. It helps keep us going. Although I will say, just walking, in my everyday life at the grocery store is always love when someone recognizes me. I'm sure other people that don't like me recognize me, but they don't have the guts to actually say something in those settings.
Oh, Drea, don't always get the love. I wish I could have seen the future when I was in grade 8, when I was mercilessly bullied, running home at the crack of the bell. I think that year I could have actually made the track team. I did so much running, and now you get adulation. I don't know about you. It is so humbling. And that's the word. And I love it. And thank you to those people. I notice scanning the room and outside, Drea, I saw what I think is a very diverse group of people. And, I want to say something here. The slogan for the Poilievre rallies is Canada First. Yeah. And there is left-wing media that are condemning that, saying that's racist and it's code speak for white supremacy. Drea, you don't look like a white supremacist to me. Let me just say that, okay?
No, and you're right. A lot of people didn't look like white supremacists there. And, I think people are just so tired of it. I think most people, their eyes are just rolling in the back of their heads when they hear this thing. I mean, the left has done a great job of diffusing the meanings in so many words. What is racism anymore? What is bigotry anymore? It's really coming down to anything that's common sense, like saying, hey, Canada first, especially when there is a threat of tariffs against us. I mean, it's basically what the Liberals are saying is, elbows up or whatever. It's just a better way of saying it. So, Drea, definitely a diverse crowd.
And I want to make mention that the Carney slogan is Canada Strong. So wait a second. If Canada First is racist and code speak for white supremacy, why does Canada Strong meet the sniff test? I mean, there's so little nuance between both slogans. They're both good. At least I have the honesty to give credit where credit is due. And I want to talk about this moronic elbows up. Drea, I think a lot of people saying that don't understand the origin of elbows up, it's a hockey term. It means when you're going into the boards, you've got your elbows up because you're going to do elbowing to your opponent. You're going to do a dirty play. Is that what you want to call your movement? That you're dirty elbowing hockey players? Give me a break.
I didn't know that history. I have 3 brothers, and I tuned out many hockey nights.
You should have paid more attention.
Jealousy of never being able to control the TV during those times. But the first thing that came to mind to me was, you remember during COVID, the politicians, they would do the elbows to each other instead of like shaking hands and stuff. So I was just like, oh, it's so fitting. That's what came to mind.
I forgot about that. But here's one I do remember. It was Trudeau elbowing a female MP right in the chest area, I believe.
Yes.
Remember that right. When he was having a little hissy fit? Yeah, so there's your poster boy for elbows up. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
And I see we have some video. Oh, goody. Poilievre engaged with reporter David Akin. David Akin, I considered him a friend more than a decade ago. We both worked at the Sun News Network. I was his regular Friday guest. And then he went vicious against me when the RCMP attacked me in December of 2021, not the more infamous January 2024 attack. I know it's kind of hard to keep track without a scorebook, but this, and he called me like it was staged and everything. I mean, anyone, I welcome our viewers, Drea, to Google that December 2021 encounter I had with the RCMP. We still have a lawsuit outstanding on that one. But David Akin also received some infamy, I would say, by heckling Pierre Poilievre. Apparently, he was being ignored. Oh, really, David? Welcome to our world where we not only get ignored by the liberals, but we get frog marched out. You yourself, Dre, I remember some RCMP goon picking you up like you were a little China doll and moving you away from the anointed one, Justin Trudeau, coming along. Anyways, why don't we see...
And Justin reached out to me. I don't have to call him Trudeau anymore. I can call him Justin. He's not the prime minister. He actually, if you slow it down, he actually reaches out to me and I'm like this. And then they pick me up. It's like, no, he was the one coming to elbow me or something. I don't know.
Well, you look like a national security threat to me, Drea, let me tell you. But why don't we run that video and let's try and analyze it after the fact.
I want to ask about some conservatives who are upset in this election. This is my 7th campaign. I've never had so many calls from grassroots conservatives upset that head office is choosing the candidates. In St. John, the president of the EDA quit. In Penticton, just a couple of days ago, 4 candidates running. No, head office says it's going to be this person. They say frustrated beyond belief. In Richmond, you could have had Kenny Chu or Wai Young. Nope, head office appointed somebody else. And then there's Mike DeYoung in Abbotsford. People are scratching their heads. Ian Black sat beside Mike in Gordon Campbell's cabinet, but Mike didn't make the cut. So the question is, why, on behalf of conservative grassroots members, why can't conservative grassroots choose their own candidate? And what was so defective about Mike DeYoung?
Thanks very much, David. And I know that you've always been such a great champion of grassroots conservatives. So thank you for claiming to be their spokesman. Listen, the reality is that conservatives are going to have solid candidates right across the country. We're going to put Canada first.
Dre, I want to hear what you have to say. Here's what I have to say. You remember that Tina Turner song from the 80s, #1 hit, What's Love Got to Do with It? I'm sorry to say this, and this applies to every political party. The song is, What's Democracy Got to Do with It? A political party is a private club, and they will do whatever the heck they darn well please. And democracy has nothing to do with it. And it doesn't matter if you're conservative, liberal, NDP, Green, you name it. It's just the way it is. I wish it wasn't that way. But what David Akin is getting upset about is something that is par for the course across all political lines. And secondly, where was David Akin's concern about the democratic process during the Liberal leadership process.
Yeah,
In which,
yes.
they were deleting people this way, that way for very nebulous reasons. So, to quote or to paraphrase the Shakespearean line, Drea, methinks the lady, is David Aiken a lady? Methinks the man doth protest too much. Your thoughts?
I think you hit it on the nail. Like, where was he with the Liberals? Because this is happening. And you're right. The party can pick who they want to pick and put forth. I will agree, though, out here in British Columbia, that it is accurate to say that there were a lot of grassroots who were upset about the candidate selection. So I don't think that part of the question is a bad thing, but it's almost like he was like, I gotcha.
Yep.
I finally got you. And he should know that they are able to do it. I do want to point out as he did as well in Abbotsford, Mike De Jong. A lot of people were upset that he didn't go through. He's a seasoned MLA, an attorney, and he had signed up close to 2,000 members, which is a lot and that was new members in that riding that he's well known in. And then they went with somebody who's a lot younger, 24 years old. And some people were like, well, what the heck's going on there? So you could see that, some people were like, what's going on? Now, news just broke. And I don't know how much of an impact this is going to have in that riding. I think it's the Abbotsford South riding, or don't quote me on that. But he's now running as an independent.
Oh, boy.
I know. And so, like I said, he is a veteran MLA running as an independent who signed up 2,000 members. How are those members in the riding going to feel that he wasn't the candidate and now he's running? So I don't know what's going to happen in that riding.
But, Drea,
one more quick thing. I just want to insert, and I'm sad that Kenny Chu did not make it as well. I'm very disappointed about that personally. In Richmond.
And Drea, here's the thing. We establish and we agree that political parties can do whatever they darn well please.
Yes.
When it comes to establishing candidates. They're essentially private clubs. But when it comes to Mr. De Jong, what do you think was the unspoken strategy in overlooking him and going with this rookie 24-year-old candidate? That's one. And B, or two, I should say, to be consistent, are the Conservatives going to experience a little buyer's remorse? Because could De Jong running as an independent cost the Conservative candidate the riding?
Well, that is the big question. I don't know what their strategy was. Perhaps this young 24-year-old is more connected to some other sector that they think is more valuable. But I don't know if they anticipated that he would run as an independent. And normally that's not necessarily an easy ride. But if things are close, as the polls suggest, although I doubt they are in somewhere like Abbotsford, but if they are close, that could be a problem. We saw that before in the last election with the PPC out here. There was a couple of ridings that lost. If they had the PPC votes, they would have. So there might be a little bit of remorse.
This is heartbreaking because I don't know the dynamics in terms of what happened to Mr. De Jong there, but I truly believe, Drea, this is the most important election, at least of my lifetime, and I'm not exaggerating. And I think across the board, we have to put down our battle axes and do what's right for the good of the country. And for me, I don't think there's any other alternative than being united for the Conservative Party to bring about regime change. It would be sad if these, couple of ridings across the country, be it a popular independent, the PPC siphoning off some right of center votes, if that's what costs Poilievre a majority government or a government period. That's how passionate I feel about this election.
Well, I have much respect for Maxime Bernier and everything he did to fight during lockdowns. The reality is he hasn't won a seat. There's been no seat won. And I think that should weigh a lot into people's decision on what is a practicality in this election when the Pierre Poilievre Conservatives are now, saying that they're going to do most of what he fought for, or what he was advocating for, is the PPC. They say that they're going to put some control on the immigration, make sure that it doesn't outpace us. They say that they're going to ban vaccine mandates. He even came out and said, I only know 2 genders. I mean, when you look at that and you look at, Mr. Bernier hasn't been able to get a seat, neither has any of his candidates. I don't think it's the same thing we were facing, let's say, during the COVID-19 election, where you didn't have another voice.
Andrea, I have great respect for Maxime Bernier.
Yeah.
I very much like him as a person and a politician. And I agree that he was screwed back in 2018,
right?
When the race for Conservative leader went to a 13th ballot, and Mr. Bernier lost by something like 1%. And the tipping point was bringing in all those Quebec dairy farmers, because Bernier, even though he's from Quebec, is outspoken, and I applaud that, against the supply management system. And that meant Bernier lost, Scheer won, and Scheer even rubbed it in his face, that famous photo of him drinking out of a carton of milk. And here's my question. It's hypothetical, and until we can bend the time-space continuum, Drea, do you think things might have been different for the Conservatives had Bernier become the leader for the 2019 election?
It's funny. That was like probably when I first started paying attention to politics. Like Maxime Bernier was probably one of the first people I followed. And I think it probably could have been different. And we saw that for sure it was, detrimental to the party, what ended up happening because of all of that. So that's the thing in politics. You make one move and it could make things crumble. We saw that in British Columbia too. If you look at the history of why the BC Conservatives rise the way they did. So you just never know. You got to be careful which way you step.
Yeah. I'm of 2 minds, and again, we'll never know unless we can invent time travel. But I think it's likely Bernier would have carried the day. On the flip side, would Bernier, as the head of the Conservatives, would he have been so outspoken on so many of the issues that, because I think that's one of the problems. If you become a leader of a mainstream party, you got to rein it in a bit. And I don't know if Mr. Bernier would do so. And I think, Drea, if he didn't do so, I think there's enough appetite out there of Canadians to embrace a politician like a Maxime Bernier who says what he means and means what he says. That's what Rob Ford, our dearly departed Toronto mayor, used to do. And people loved him. People wept when he died. So sometimes I think it's a good thing not to play the political game.
Yep. I agree with you there.
All right. That's what I like to hear. You know what? I think we have to break for a Rumble ad read, if I'm reading the schedule correctly.
All right. Let me have a look. Oh, ad break.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again, if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
They're doing great work and much needed work. And by the way, if you are watching this live stream and you are a gun owner or a gun enthusiast, collector, and you are going to vote Liberal, please, I beg of you, send us a super chat and educate me. Explain why, because I think the two things, gun ownership and voting for the Liberals, are completely incompatible. It's the mongoose and the cobra. Drea, I see we have a spicy little clip from Daisy Media. Typically, he was asking Mark Carney about a certain island, and I'm not talking about Gilligan's Island. Ooh, wasn't received all that well. Let's check it out.
Hey, Mark Carney, what about those kids on Epstein Island? Mark Carney, what about the kids on Epstein Island? Canada wants to know, what about those children on Epstein Island? Do you have any idea about them, what you did with them? Canada wants to know.
Well, on the bright side, he didn't get falsely arrested and assaulted by Uncle Fester of the Royal Canadian Mounted Thugs. So good on that. But, you know, Dre, it's very interesting. We were, that's to say, Leapin' Lincoln Jay and I were kicked out of the Carney event, even though we were welcomed in as media. And they very, very quickly had buyer's remorse. No reason given. So we had to do streeters from a public sidewalk. And it's very interesting. I was asking some of the Liberal diehards coming to the rally, what do you make of this photo of Mr. Carney and Miss Maxwell, the recruiter of female talent, so to speak, for Epstein Island? And, you know, boy, did the lies run deep in the Liberal Party. One guy denounced me as fake news, saying that, you know, that is an AI-generated photograph. But, Drea, Carney's never said that. He said, I think his words were along the lines of, I meet all kinds of people when I'm out and about. So if Carney isn't saying it's AI generated, why is this minion saying that? But here's the bigger question is this. Drea, I would bet my life that if that photo that we're all looking at right now, take Carney out and put Poilievre in, and it is front page every single day. What say you?
Well, it's a fine example of cognitive dissonance. Like, people these days, you know, it's so hard to change anything. When you bring them with the truth, especially I would say on the left, because they don't like debate, they don't like dissenting views. They just reject it and they can't see it. And you're absolutely right. If that was Poilievre, it would be front page news. And I think it's a fair question, not an assertion that, hey, is this photo AI with all of the AI photos we see? But you do know that the mainstream media knows it's not AI. And they're the ones avoiding the story. They know that these are real pictures and they're not running the story and informing the public that they are. And that's the real issue.
Andrea, what I said to that supporter is that if you can provide evidence that that is AI, I will issue a public retraction and an apology. But I know that evidence is never going to come. Why? Because even Mr. Carney, who has the most to gain by saying this is trick photography, hasn't said that. He said the precise opposite. He's meeting all kinds of people. So, like I said, the lies run deep. Speaking of Carney and lying, this doesn't look good. He faces plagiarism accusations for his 1995 Oxford doctoral thesis. Again, should be on the front page. It's, hey, never mind, move on, according to most of the mainstream media. I think this is serious, Drea.
It is serious, and it's very reminiscent of what we saw with Biden. Remember, he had the same thing. He plagiarized a whole speech and then lied about how he graduated. And so, perhaps we're seeing the same thing here again. And it says that the National Post has provided 10 examples to Carney's campaign team. So I think there's 10 different sort of examples in this essay where it's like, it looks as though it is clearly plagiarized in his 1995 thesis for his doctorate in economics from Oxford University. The dynamic advantage of competition. Oh, how fitting for what's happening right now.
Wow.
So yeah, 10 instances of plagiarism. And of course, just like he's not responding about those photos, he's not responding about this as well.
Well, you know what, Drea? Just call me Nostradamus, but because before this story broke, I was calling Mark Carney a plagiarist. The reason? He has plagiarized the Pierre Poilievre platform, almost everything. The carbon tax cut, well, sort of. The GST holiday for new home buyers, cutting the debt and the deficit, gutting the bureaucracy. These are all Poilievre planks. He's copied everyone except, and our friends at the NFA will point this out, absent in the plagiarism of the platform is revoking Justin Trudeau's odious gun grab. That he's still okay with. So there's one difference, and a profound difference at that, because what is there, like 2.5 million gun owners in Canada? Drea, if they vote as a bloc, that is super significant. So I guess what I'm saying is that plagiarism for Carney, it's a natural occurrence. I guess that's his new nickname, Copycat Carney.
I like Copycat Carney. That's good. I've been calling him Chameleon Carney because, like, as soon as all of a sudden he's like, like you said, copying Poilievre's platform. But you're right, and that says a lot about integrity, especially if you're using it. You're not 10 years old when you don't really understand what plagiarism is or something like that. You're using it to actually graduate. So it's not surprising, though. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice if the mainstream media picked this up, because I'll tell you one thing about the Kitchener Carney event. The noticeable demographic, Drea, it wasn't the newlywed, it was the nearly dead. It was very, very old people who I assume are getting their news from the state-sanctioned broadcaster, the CBC, and have no appetite to get into a debate on the issues. And so when you're the Conservative Party, you're going up against two parties, the Liberal Party and the Media Party. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so that's shameful.
Well, not to mention they're fighting for their existence in some ways, because Poilievre, previously was getting the most cheers for saying he's going to defund the CBC. So now it's a whole new level of propaganda.
Oh, you're right, Drea, because the media has skin in the game. Mainstream media, I hate to break it to them, it's a sunset industry. They are losing listeners and viewers and readers. They can't sell the amount of advertisements they used to. What ads they do sell, and take it from me, folks, you're getting maybe 10 or 15% of what you could get for an ad a couple of decades ago. And without bailouts, they don't have a business plan, and it's so rich, isn't it, Drea? I love it when the snobs in the mainstream media, when we have a campaign and we ask our viewership for a donation. Oh, look at Rebel News. There they go, begging again. Begging. I think this is the most honest way of fundraising there is. You want to give money? Great. We love you. You don't want to give money? About 95% plus of our content is available online for free.
That's how we roll.
Yeah. And so where's this begging? I think it's more odious that every 2 weeks when you're getting paid, I've got the mainstream media taking do-re-mi out of my bank account in an involuntary fashion. So shame
and
on
to
them
lie about people like us, Canadians like us. Now we have some breaking news that came in, so I think we're going
Oh,
to replace that with the Carney thing we were going to talk about next. Breaking news coming out of the White House, I guess. President Trump discussing his conversation with our selected Prime Minister, Mark Carney.
We had a very good conversation. Mark called me today at 10 o'clock. We put out a statement. We had a very, very good talk. He's going through an election now, and we'll see what happens. But we have Liberation Day, as you know, on April 2nd, and I'm not referring to Canada, but many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many, many decades, And, that has to stop. We're going to end up with a very good relationship with Canada and a lot of the other countries. Some we probably won't. It won't be so pleasant. But I think most countries are agreeing with me. Many of them have actually apologized. They said, look, we have taken advantage. And I don't blame them as much as I blame the people that stood. In this case, I can say the men, because so far they've been all men, haven't they? But the men that sat right there and behind the Resolute desk, mostly the Resolute desk.
yeah, President Trump is right. Our Liberation Day has nothing to do with April 2nd, but April 28th, methinks. But you know what? Here's my take. I saw that clip, Drea, and there was no talk of Governor Carney, like he calls Trudeau the governor. There was no talk of the 51st state. Here is my theory. Reverse psychology. I think Trump doesn't want Carney to become the prime minister. And I think his strategy, and I might be wrong, but this is my theory, is to look so chummy and good with Carney that people are going, wait a minute, why are these two all of a sudden buddies now? And I think Trump is trying to poison the waters in terms of Carney support. What do you think?
I think that's a really good theory, but I also think my head hurts from trying to figure out what Trump thinks these days and what he's doing and why he's saying what he's saying. I mean, we know that Mark Carney is going out claiming that Pierre Poilievre worships Trump, which is totally false and untrue.
Yep.
And, shortly after that became very prevalent, we did see Trump come out and say, he doesn't like Pierre Poilievre basically because Poilievre doesn't like him. And I think he used the word like stupidly, something. So you're right. Your theory could be right where Trump is coming out and really acting like he really likes Mark Carney and he doesn't like Poilievre. The language, the more respectful language, I should say, that you pointed out when he's referring to PM Mark Carney is consistent. Actually, that tweet that you had up to our great producers, if you scroll down just a little bit, somebody put a screenshot of when he said he spoke to Prime Minister Trudeau. And actually the language, he didn't refer to him as the governor or anything like that in there too. He did speak the exact same way pretty much when he had a phone call with Trudeau, just like he did with Carney, if you scroll down. But what does really stand out is he speaks about him as though he will be the prime minister for sure coming through, which is quite interesting. But again, the mainstream media isn't going to inform their echo chamber that it now looks like they're so chummy. They're not going to, make that stand out to their people.
No, and on the flip side, this is the opposite of diplomacy, I think. When Carney says our old relationship with the U.S. based on integrated economies and tight security and military cooperation is over. Drea, that is so irresponsible. Our border with the U.S., it's the longest undefended border in the history of the world. And for Carney, who doesn't even have a mandate, I mean, he's prime minister in name only, for goodness sakes, saying that this relationship is over. What is he thinking?
It's very reckless conversation. I mean, let's be honest. If something really goes down, we really need the U.S.'s help. So it's actually literally dangerous to say stuff like that, especially with someone like Trump, where you don't know. He might just be like, okay, fine, I'm done with you guys. So
100%. And the sad fact is, look, I'm a proud Canadian like anyone else, but we need the US in those realms more than the US needs us. So
Yes.
it's reality check time. Why don't we go to a video now of Ontario Premier Doug Ford? Oh
Being
boy,
just as
talk
reckless.
about a lack of diplomacy.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Let's run it.
But I can assure you one thing, we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. And that's the reason we've done 2 rounds of 30 billion and 30 billion. And the last 65 billion, it will hurt. I'll be very, very frank, but I've talked to a tremendous amount of people going to events, and I'm very transparent by saying we have 2 options here. We either roll over as a country and he runs us over 15 times and gets what he wants, or we feel a little bit of pain and we fight like we've never fought before. But I can assure you one thing.
Yeah,
This
the only
guy.
time I've ever seen Doug Ford fight like he's never fought before is when there's only one remaining slice of cherry cheesecake on the table. Anyway, Drea, I'm astonished by that kind of rhetoric. It didn't work earlier this month when Ford got into a game of chicken with Trump about cutting off electricity from 3 states. And turns out, Doug Ford was pedaling a tricycle with training wheels, and Trump was behind the wheel of a Hummer. And I don't mean that EV abomination General Motors sells now. I mean an old school Army Jeep fossil fuel burning Hummer. And Ford ended up in the ditch and pretty much almost took the Ontario economy with him. And you remember the rhetoric then, he's going to cut the power with a smile on his face. Drea, how does someone who is an allegedly seasoned politician like Ford say stuff like that? If you had to make this threat, and correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't you say, folks, we're backed into a corner. I don't want to do this, but there's no other option but to let, Americans freeze in the dark and he's going to be smiling during a brutal winter? Are you kidding me?
You hit so much on the nail there. What really stands out to me is that he is also saying we are going to inflict pain on the American people. Like he specifically targets the citizens of America rather than the state, which is just such extreme language. And to put into perspective, what you're bringing up about him, we're going to cut off the electricity to the people. That is the doom and gloom sort of excuse that out here in British Columbia, our Premier David Eby is using to try to justify passing this Bill 7 bill. If you guys haven't looked into this is very scary for the whole country if this takes root. So please check out my reports at our website called Stop Eby, ebyspowergrab.com. But anyways, this bill will give him complete authority over so much stuff. And he is using the example, well, what if Trump cuts off our electricity? This is why I need all of this wartime measure-like power out here in British Columbia. So he's using that as a worst case scenario to need this bill to pass, to get all of this power. Meanwhile, you have Doug Ford just like, yeah, we're going to cut off the power. And what did Trump say? Trump responded to that saying, like, basically, that's crazy. Like, that could affect people's ability to live. Like, what are you talking about? It's winter here. So you have Doug Ford out here essentially being more extreme in this economic war we're having than, the so-called bad guy Donald Trump.
And Drea, Eby clearly subscribes to the political ideology of never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yes.
But these are high stakes here. And getting back to Doug Ford, he's allegedly a conservative. Why have you never seen Poilievre and Ford together? It's kind of like, the comic book question. Hey, how come we never see Superman and Clark Kent in the same room? But in this case, it's not that they're the same person. I think, Drea, this is Ford being ever the political opportunist. He's going to wait till the dying days of this campaign, late April, see who he thinks is going to be the prime minister. And if it's Poilievre, he'll come out and support. If it's Carney, it doesn't matter to Ford. He's a red Tory or an outright liberal, if you speak to some people. And I think that's what's going on behind the scenes, aside from the fact my sources tell me, and this is just so terrible beyond words, one of the big reasons you never see Poilievre and Ford together is Ford's people hate Poilievre's people and vice versa. These are the people behind the scenes, who you could never name. If that's the case, like I said, given the stakes of this federal election, we can't have petty politics right now.
Absolutely. And there is a clip that we shared, we talked about it in a previous live stream I was on, but when he was asked about, his relationship with Poilievre versus Carney, he was basically like, I don't really have a relationship with either of them. So you're right. He's just waiting till the end. And I think maybe he's trying to stand out or something as, this powerful leader and more powerful, I guess, than them, maybe.
Unbelievable. I think we have to take one last ad break, and we have a few subjects we can choose from. What I'd like to get to is the Toronto Blue Jays in their season opener making the PR disaster of the year involving a fan's hat, if you can believe it. Yes, folks. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on the other side of this ad break.
Mark Carney was caught with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking sidekick. Prince Andrew, Epstein's client, paid for a lavish party for Mark Carney at Buckingham Palace. And now it turns out Mark Carney's wife's family is in Epstein's notorious black book, 7 numbers, 2 addresses. We have questions. But Carney ordered police to block independent reporters.
Sure, you need to relax. It sounds like you're getting very aggravated.
I am.
What is the truth about Mark Carney and Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh, I love that ad.
I know. There's some great ads coming off of there. And you know what? Share the ads, because that's the best way to bust through the echo chamber. On Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg says he's going to be censoring less. I think that's true, actually. I'm noticing it on my account big time. I was extremely censored. I would get, if I did a post, maybe like 5 people would like it, and now it's hundreds. So something has changed. So go ahead. If you see these great ads, go ahead and share them. I mean, the clock is ticking.
Absolutely. The 28th, he'll be here before you know it. So Drea, I see we're coming up to 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. The Blue Jays now say our staff made a mistake. That's kind of like the captain of the Titanic saying, I made a navigational error. What the story is, folks, is an older gentleman, diehard Blue Jays fan, goes into the Sky Dome. I refuse to call it Rogers Center, and there's a reason behind that, but that's not important. And he was wearing a baseball cap, which had the words, Canada is not for sale. And it was a red cap. And you know what I think, Drea? And this gentleman, an usher came up, and security guards, and said, you have to either take that off or you must leave the stadium. And he said, I'm not taking it off. And they said, well, go. And the Gestapo frog marched him out. Drea, I honestly believe that because the cap was red, that this dummy of an usher didn't even read the copy, just assumed it was a MAGA cap. And by the way, regardless of what's going on with the tariff tiff, I have no problem with the phrase, make America great again. Because yes, America is our greatest allies. I love Americans. I have great respect for Donald Trump. I want America to be great, the tariff tiff aside. So the idea that this was a political statement, and the joke of it is that this is the kind of rhetoric those on the left are saying. Canada not for sale. And believe me, Rogers is your typical woke company. Look at this guy. How, even wearing the Blue Jay merch, he's bought tickets, he's got the merch on, and he's been fraud. Now the Blue Jays are saying, our mistake, we're going to give him a pair of tickets. Kind of like, the woman I did an interview on, Ashley Drea, who suffered a miscarriage at Skydome during a Taylor Swift concert. Imagine that. You had more than 50,000 people there, more than 90% being female, and they didn't even have any medical supplies on hand to deal with a miscarriage. They told this woman, who was in a state of shock, can you just go into the bathroom and shove toilet paper up there? Can you imagine?
Disgusting.
And by the way, that was Ashley's biggest mistake. She had cheap seats in the 500 level. She was told by somebody that had you been on the 100 level, the medical facilities are much better stocked. Rogers Communications, it is one of the most shameful scumbag companies they are. And that was their make good for Ashley. We'll give you a pair of Blue Jays tickets, tickets that are pretty much worthless because they're not selling out every game this year, not even close. But I'm off on a tangerine there. Drea, what do you think happened there? What was the unspoken reason that Canada is not for sale was somehow determined to be a political statement, and maybe it is or maybe it isn't, but B, that's not a bad political statement, I don't think, if you're a proud Canadian.
No, I think you're right, where they probably misread it and the order came down. I mean, he had said that the people who actually approached him, or the person who actually approached him, was super nice and sort of apologetic. So perhaps the order came down from somebody who thought it said something else. And then I think it also speaks to how just a minute ago, the left hated Canadian flags. They were burning them. I know that anytime it's up on my car, every couple of weeks, someone steals it or takes it off and things like that. And so it's must channel in, take it down. But let's be honest, I just shared a link there when it comes to the center saying that it's too political for them. Did you guys get my link there? Can we put that on the screen? They have no issue celebrating Pride, of course, which is the most political movement, I would say, of the day. The Pride movement, it advocates for different rights. I don't know what rights they're still advocating for. I guess males to enter women and children's change rooms. And, they get funding from our government. You have politicians always coming out and speaking out. Pride is very political. They're having entire Blue Jay Pride presentation and events there, but yet this gentleman couldn't wear a hat.
When it comes to Pride, that's a sacred cow. The Blue Jays even sacrificed a pitcher, Wells, from their roster because he was saying something. I guess he was standing up for family values. It was nothing homophobic or transphobic or anything else. That's it. It was a nice career while it lasted. And, I can't help but notice too, Drea, it's not just Pride, it's Pride Progress. All those logos you were displaying, it's a variation of the latest Pride flag, which is called the Pride Progress flag. That's the one with the baby blue, white, and pink stripes. That's to represent trans, but wait a minute. I thought the original Pride flag was all about LGBTQ. The T being for trans, so it's double coverage. Yeah, I guess so, but never mind. Also,
and then the brown stripe. I have to point this out since you're on this. They threw in people of color on there, like we asked to be freaking on the flag. What the heck? All of a sudden, people of color. What does that even have to do with the LGBTQ plus community?
Drea, that's exactly where I was going. You can see the black and brown colors. That is for black and brown people. But wait a minute.
The BIPOC.
I thought this flag was all about sexual orientation and gender identification. Now race is part of it. Oh, and by the way, for having race, where's a color for the Asian people, maybe, or the white people, or the white and yellow bands already doing double duty? No, I don't think so. It's just brown and black people. I mean, this is, you know,
Each stripe, they're narrowing down the fact that they are excluding a certain demographic of people, and each stripe is getting closer and closer to spelling that out. I think we can all guess
you know,
what type of people are excluded and what religion.
although those two people there, oh my goodness, they're so unfashionable. They're not wearing the latest kit. It's the one with the purple circle. That's evidently
Yes.
to represent non-binary people, whatever the hell that is. You know, Drea, in our lifetime, we are going to see a pride, progress flag that is going to be so cluttered. You are literally going to see an icon of the kitchen sink on it. Okay. It's like, hey man, anything goes, whatever floats your boat. And it's breaking the number one caveat of good design. Less is more. Like, say what you will about the original rainbow flag, the fact that there were 6 colors and that's it. And no triangles and no other colors and no double duty messaging. It was simplistic in a good way, and they have completely gotten away with it. These people are crazy, Drea.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know if you guys know, if you're still watching in and tuning in, you can give us a super chat if you have any comments about what we spoke about, or a Rumble rant over on Rumble. And we have a late chat from before. So now is your time to do that before we end the show. And it's about Evan Solomon's poop pick and a $10 donation from Nana Awake. Thank you very much. So I don't know if we have the poop pic to pull up, but Evan Solomon is posing in front of his liberal candidacy posters in front of what looks like a urine wall with a actual piece of poop, I think, at the bottom. So thank you for that. And anybody else wants to join in? I think we've got one more. There it is. You got to scroll down. Look, he's so proud to be a liberal.
You know what?
There you go.
As a matter of fact, Drea, after the show, I'm going downtown to Toronto Centre and seeing if they've at least had the decency to clean that up. Not only is that feces, but to my eyes, because I own a canine, that doesn't look like dog poo to me.
No.
That looks like human feces. Clearly, the walls are stained with urine. There's 2 things that come to mind. One is, I'm old enough, kids remember back in 1987, Peter Ustinov said of Toronto, it is like New York run by the Swiss. Not really. It's now more like San Francisco operated by Chairman Chow. This city, I've never seen it so filthy, so graffiti bombed, literal hazards on the street like hypodermic needles. The second thing, Drea, you know full well that when you're doing a political photo, everything is super staged. Everything is super controlled. Nobody noticed that mess behind Evan Solomon, or maybe it's this. Off camera, it's even worse. There's more human feces and urine. I don't know. I'm going to go down and see for myself. And also, let's not forget when Evan Solomon, who's supposed to be a social media whiz, he tweeted out that he's the candidate for Toronto Centre, and he showed a picture of the Liberal bus. But the bus says, do we have a shot of that, Olivia? Yeah, it doesn't say Liberal. It says, hang on, retard
Oh, no. What?
The social media whiz didn't even read what was on the bus. It's obviously a Photoshop meme, but he thought it was legitimate. You know what it reminds me of, Drea? There was a stamp that came out for the anniversary. It might have been the 200th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty, and the U.S. Postal Service put out a stamp, and it was the face of Lady Liberty. And it was something like a few billion of these stamps they minted and then had to instantly recall because some very eagle-eyed people looked at that stamp. And you know what? That's not the Statue of Liberty. That's the
Oh.
replica Statue of Liberty in Las Vegas at the New York casino. Look, Drea, the Statue of Liberty might be amongst the top 10 most photographed things in the world. And somehow you picked an image that is the facsimile, not real. And somehow Evan Solomon, there must be tons of photos of the Liberal bus, and he picked retard bus. Unbelievable.
And it's massive writing. Like, I don't understand. That's two epic fails. It's like you're not paying attention to any detail. So not
and the
really
other detail too, as you'll notice in smaller print, but prolific
the
nevertheless, World Economic Forum. No. Mark Carney wants you to forget
The
about that right now.
Yeah, the symbolism. Maybe Evan is trying to say something, wake his people up. He's doing the symbolism, a pile of crap next to his
Unbelievable.
candidacy. We've got to add, and then we have another chat to read. So this is the Kids Guide. For the parents out there, I'm sure by now you're familiar with the Kids Guide Co., founded by Mike Huckabee. And if you're not, let me tell you about it. The Kids Guide wants to know whether or not you approve of Doge. Please take a minute to head over to dogechoice.com right now to cast your vote and to see how more than 15,000 other parents who've already voted feel about Doge. Remember, vote at dogechoice.com. Whether you choose yes or no in the Kids Guide Doge poll, when you visit dogechoice.com, you'll be thanked with a free gift bundle featuring 2 kids guides. You'll get the Kids Guide to President Trump and the Kids Guide to Elon Musk. I'm very interested to see what that one says. For some reason, my little guy knows who Elon Musk is. Like, I never really talked to him about it. But anyways, side note, you'll get both of those guides for free, so your kids can learn how they're using Doge to slash government waste. Remember, visit dogechoice.com to cast your vote, and you'll get a free gift bundle for your kids. So yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting to me, Drea. I really like books written for kids. I have a profound fear of 3-syllable words. I like it easy to understand. I usually look for the look another see I can read cat in a hat book logo in the corner. So I think I'll be buying a book or 2 of those kids' guides.
And let's face it, the kids are getting educated / indoctrinated, whether you're paying attention or not. So it is good to talk about these types of things.
Little Johnny can't spell cat if you spared him the C and the T, but he can tell you what all 128 genders are.
Yeah. Now, Leighton T donates $5 through a super chat or Rumble Rant. I'm not sure, but thank you so much either way. And says, it's a question for you, David. Says, will you be in attendance at the Oshawa Conservative rally?
Well, Leighton T, thank you very much for that $5. And feel free, I know it sounds like I'm being greedy here, to tell me where and when the Oshawa rally is happening, because I'd love to come. There was one scheduled for this Sunday in Brampton. It's been moved to North Toronto. I will definitely be there at that one. Hey, it's worth the drive to Oshawa for me for a Pierre Poilievre rally. I love those rallies, super high energy, and the nicest people you'll ever see. So I'll check on our end, see if the team has an address for that. As long as wherever Pierre Poilievre is, in terms of Ontario, I will try to get to those rallies. Always a great time.
Well, I think that's it for the show.
Right.
It was a pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, Drea, thank you so much for filling in for Sheila Gunn Reid. And speaking of which, the she-devil herself will be back here on Monday, along with yours truly. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I want to especially thank those who gave a donation. Thank you very, very much from the bottom of our hearts for that. As always, as the saying goes, folks, enjoy the weekend and stay safe and stay sane.
And I'm screwing up the end of the live to say something very important, which is if you have a Rumble Premium account, you get to stick around on Rumble and you get to see one of our
Right.
exclusive Ezra Levant shows that are behind the paywall right now for free. So make sure you stick around for that. And then
Okay. Then
stay
I'll just
tuned,
end it
stay
with a
tuned.
new catchphrase, then, Drea. Thank God it's TGIF. Get it?
Tonight, serious questions are being asked by the U.S. Congress. Did Mark Carney engage in extortion towards U.S. oil and gas companies? It's March 26th, and this is the Ezra Levant Show.